Hey now, AdamReever, here saying check out Nez Says.
And we're live on a very special edition of Nez Says here Wednesday, October 28th of 2020. Welcome to Nez Says, where musicians come together and inspire each other to play more guitar. Great show tonight. Ty Price here. How you doing, Ty?
Hey, Dave. Good to see you. And you're right, it's Wednesday.
It is
I usually
Wednesday.
say happy Thursday, so tonight I'll extend a very happy Wednesday. And as always, it's great to be with you on this very special edition of Nez Says. And it's a special edition because we're so excited about tonight's guest who has agreed to join us midweek. Many of you already know Rob. He's a guitar player, he's a builder, he's a collector, and a Van Halen enthusiast. He has a very large private collection and is a wealth of knowledge about all things Van Halen, especially the guitars.
I'd say
All
he's
the
a historian.
guitars. Yes, all the guitars throughout the decades, right? And Rob, we're just thrilled that you have agreed to join us for a conversation tonight, share your passion and pieces of your collection with us. Welcome, Mr. Rob Johnson.
Well, as Eddie Van Halen said to Les Paul back in 1988, it's a damn honor to be here. So thank you very much. I really appreciate the invite. Dave and Ty have been really good friends. I mean, Dave for even longer. I've known Dave a lot longer than Ty, but Dave and I have been really good friends for a number of years. And I think it goes back to before we even met. I mean, the two of us back in the 90s, we didn't even know each other, but we knew, about each other's collections and stuff like that. We'd see stuff online about my guitars and vice versa. And then I was lucky enough through Dave to meet Ty, and he's become also a great friend and also an incredible guitarist as well. So thank you very much for the invite. It means a lot. I appreciate it.
You bet. We're so happy that you're here, and we can't wait to dig into all of those things hanging on the wall behind you. I mean,
he left in my bank account, but no.
Yeah, Thunder Falcon in the chat's already commented on that awesome wall that you have behind you.
Half of it, but.
Ty, you want to say hi to the people in the chat?
Yeah, man. We're so glad you all are here. Thunder Falcon, best name on YouTube. Glad you're here. Fender Guru, Andrew, I love your show, man. Desiree is here. Thomas Santiago, Jimmy Carr, Eduardo Porto is here. Nick Horton is here. Apollo X 1965, or maybe it's Apollo 10 1965. Guitar Man 45, hey man, good to see you. Dave, your mom is here. So
Yeah.
always great to see her. Janice is here. Hey Janice. Tube Supio is here, and we are honored to have Liquid Charlie with us tonight. Hey, Charlie.
Absolutely.
What's up, guys?
David Ennis just came in. Hey, Dave.
Hey, David, how are you? So,
Desiree.
Rob.
Yeah, who's Desiree?
Desiree, my soon-to-be wife. Desiree Nesdal?
She is a beautiful lady with just a great personality, and I always love chatting with her.
Mm-hmm.
Very funny lady, too.
Hey, real quick, I just want to give a shout out. My father, Richard Nesdal, just had surgery yesterday, and he's recuperating home. If you guys and girls can maybe say some prayers,
Definitely.
I'm sure he'll do
Certainly.
okay. But yeah, he had some surgery yesterday, and he's still under the weather.
Yeah, thoughts and prayers definitely for
Yeah.
your dad.
For a speedy recovery. Yeah, Godspeed.
Thank you.
So, Rob, how did this enthusiasm for striped guitars, how did this begin with you?
Well, it's kind of funny. My parents, my mom and dad, always have this joke. They've said all these years about me. I'm one of those guys that I never do anything half-assed. I never, when I get into something, I get into it, and I don't just jump in with all fours. I grab stuff and bring it in with me. Whether it's you know, martial arts or fitness or the firearms classes that I teach and or whatever it is, and obviously Van Halen and guitars. It's a double-edged sword because it's great to be like that in a lot of ways, to be able to engulf yourself in something, a hobby or whatever it is that you enjoy doing, because it's a great experience, but at the same time it's also exhausting, um, you know. But not only to the body and the mind, but also the wallet. But no, I'm joking on that. Obviously, uh, it's definitely been a huge passion of mine for a long time. It's interesting. How did I get into it? Well, uh, I was always a Van Halen fan ever since I think 1983. 83, 84. Well, 83, I probably heard. Um, I think I remember hearing "Where Have All the Good Times Gone" and "Dancing in the Streets." I was only 10 years old. Prior to that, I was into I remember my mom and dad liked Rod Stewart, and I would listen to Rod Stewart, and I think we even went to a concert back in 1981. My first concert, a Rod Stewart concert. I think it was the
Oh, that's cool.
Tonight I'm Yours at the Hartford Civic Center, I think, in 1981. But
That's cool.
yeah, I remember going on vacation in 1984, I think it was, up at Lake Winnipesaukee in New Hampshire, and I brought a friend of mine with me, and he brought this cassette with him, and he goes, "Hey, I got this new." It was a lake house. We were staying at a lake house. My dad was boat there, and we were water skiing and all this stuff. I was 11 years old. And I remember he goes, "Hey, I got this new cassette. It's called 1984. It's the new Van Halen album." Oh, yeah. We got that song Jump on it because I'd heard Jump. And the ironic thing was I'd never heard – I think I'd heard Jamie's Crying, but I didn't know anything about the first album, Running with the Devil. I really hadn't paid much attention to that because I guess I was just too young at the time. And I think that whole week on vacation, from all the stuff we did, the swimming and whatever, I think we wore that cassette out. It was a little cassette tape. And Panama and Jump and Hot for Teacher and all that stuff. And I remember I was just like, wow, this guitar player is just insane. And, obviously listening to Alex Van Halen on drums and all that was incredible. And I would say probably from 1984, then up through, the Hagar years, which was kind of my high school anthems, I guess. I grew up more on Hagar just because that's when I was in high school, 5150, OU 812. The From Lawful Carnal Knowledge, Balance, all that. And I remember around probably 1988, 89, I always said, man, I want to learn how to play guitar. So I would have been like 15, I was like 15 in 1988, and I think I turned 16 in 89. That's when I learned the permit. And I always wanted to play guitar, but I had started doing martial arts in 1988. And again, as when I get into something, I get into it. And I was Jean-Claude Van Damme. I mean, Bloodsport, Kickboxer, Cyborg. Those were like my favorite movies back then, and kind of still are to this day. So I was focusing on, learning how to kick high and do the splits and the helicopter kicks and all the stuff that Van Damme did. And I did get there pretty quickly, actually. And anyways, martial arts was always my big thing. That was probably something that I turned into a profession. So between that and then, years later, becoming a firearms instructor because I've got into law enforcement and all that and doing all that stuff. I just didn't really, I was always a big fan, and I was following Eddie Van Halen all through those years. So I had all the albums and I heard all the music from 84 up. And then once I really got into them, probably in the, mid 80s, high school, then I went back to the Van Halen 1 and 2 and Women and Children First, Fair Warning, all that. And I was like, wow, so I kind of always had Eddie kind of in my back pocket, so to speak, as far as a musical influence. And I always, loved his guitar playing. And again, I kept coming back to, man, one day I want to learn how to play electric guitar. I want to learn how to play electric guitar. I could have cared less about acoustic. It didn't matter to me. I just wanted to play electric guitar. I wanted to play like Eddie Van Halen did. And but I just didn't have the time because I was so engulfed in martial arts and all that stuff. And, I had started working and sports in high school, all that stuff. So I met my ex-wife in 1990, end of 94 into 95. And I remember Balance had come out. And I remember we were dating at the time, and we're coming back from, I think our first date was Legends of the Fall, back with Brad Pitt. Remember that movie? It was our first date. And, she had the CD of Balance. She did. I'm like, oh, that's the new Van Halen CD. And she put it on, I remember her Seventh Seal came on. And I was like, this is kind of cool. You hear the Buddhist monks, and all of a sudden, it just kicks off. And I was like, whoa, there's Eddie. I hadn't heard it yet. And then Can't Stop Loving You and Amsterdam, Aftershock, all that. And I was just like, damn, this album just kicks ass. And we went to see him. I said, I want to go see these guys live. Because I'd never seen Van Halen live before. I'd never seen them. I'd always wanted to, but I just never got around to it for whatever reason. I'd listened to all their albums, like I said. So I saw him first in the Balance tour. And again, I mean, maybe that's why I'm I'm so partial to that sound that Eddie has, because it's just so big, huge, majestic. I guess it's a process sound, but that wet, dry, wet sound that he had with the stereo detunes with the 9 cents on the left positive and the 9 cents on the right negative. And, I guess we can get into that later, but I was just like, damn, that is incredible. And all of a sudden something kicked. I was just like, I'm going to learn how to play guitar. I don't care. I'm not wasting any more time. And however I managed to do it, I did it, but I was able to focus on my martial arts and my job and also playing guitar. And my ex-wife bought me this. And I'm sorry for dragging this on, but it is kind of how it goes. She bought me my first guitar, and it was a Fernandez black with a white pickguard Strat, and regular bridge, no Floyd or anything like that, and a little practice amp. And she got it for me for Christmas, and I was just blown away. So I started taking guitar lessons from this guy named Matt Kim. He was a Korean kid who was an incredible guitarist, and I still see the guy today. He still plays guitar, and he's incredible. He's in a band and everything. And I remember I took lessons for about a year and a half through him, but I never learned how to read music. I never really learned a lot of theory. I picked up some, but I pretty much just said, I want to know how to play Van Halen. I don't care what it is. You really got me. Ain't talking about love, Panama. I want to learn how to play this. He's like, well, okay, but we got to get another. Like, no, just keep Van Halen. So he did his best to kind of integrate some theoretical type things in there. But after about 6 months, I knew all the cowboy chords, so to speak, and I knew how to play and stuff. So I just went to frickin' town, and I just played and played and played and played, and then trained and trained and trained and trained, and just pretty much did my thing all through my 20s. And I want to say probably around 1996, I was at work one night, and I saw this website, which was put together by Eric Broadbent at the time. It was called Unchained World. And I see these guitars, these striped guitars, and I thought they were Eddie's, but they were Scott Smiths. They were Jerry Leica's. There were some other guys on there that were painting these guitars, these replicas. And I was like, holy crap, that's amazing. So by that time, I think I'd picked up my first Kramer, because my guitar teacher, was like, hey, dude, if you're going to play this stuff, you got to get something with a Floyd on it. Yeah, because I just couldn't keep the thing in tune because I was just using that Strat bar, So I picked up a Kramer. I think it was a Pacer, and it had a pick guard on it, and I was in love with the 5150 guitar. I've always said that's my favorite guitar ever, the 5150 guitar. The Frankie's great. All the other ones are great, but the 5150 guitar is my favorite. Just from seeing Live Without a Net, that candy cane looking guitar, because it just reminded me of a candy cane. And I went and got some spray paint and some tape, because I had started messaging Scott through email. Hey, how do you do this? And he started giving me some tips and stuff. It was back in the old dial-up days, when you went to get online and you heard, the old days. And we would email back and forth, and I striped up my first guitar, and I didn't even take the pickguard off. I didn't take the pickups out. I think the only thing I did was I took the strings off. I didn't take the neck off because I didn't have a clue how to take anything apart, and I was petrified to do it. So I just taped everything off, and I painted right over the pickguard. And I wished I had a picture of that guitar somewhere because it actually came out pretty good. And I painted it up like the 5150, and I went to the store, like Walmart or whatever, and I bought some little black 5150 stickers. And this thing just looked really cool to me. And I remember I brought it to my grandmother's house that night, and I was like, "What do you think?" And she was like, "That's pretty neat." And I plugged into my little practice amp, and I was just like, playing some Van Halen guitars. And that was it. And that was the beginning of the. And from that point forward, I just started kind of getting into building and collecting. I would say probably that would have been 1996, 97. And of course, that time Gary Sharon was in the band. The whole rock fiasco had kind of come and gone. And we were gearing up for the Gary Sharon thing, and I saw him live like 3 times in the 3 tour. And I would say probably 98, 99. I take that back. 97, I bought my first Van Halen guitar, and that was a black patent pending PV Wolfgang Standard.
Cool.
And I drove 3.5 hours to this music store down in it's called Symphony Music, and it was down in Dartmouth, Massachusetts, which is the same town that I went to college in, UMass Dartmouth, actually down by Cape Cod. And I drove 3.5 hours to pick this up, and I was just like blown away. This was the coolest guitar. And then I bought a 5150 combo amp. And from that point forward, I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. So I started buying Kramers and painting them up, and I was trying to get a little bit closer, to what the real things were. Of course, back in those days, you had internet, but all this internet had just kind of come out, but there weren't all the pictures online that they are today. I mean, you can get anything online. I mean, I get so many messages every day, and Dave knows, from people, "Hey, how do you do this? How do you do this?" And part of me is like, "Hey, you figure it out. I had to research this shit for 25 years."
I've actually started not answering people.
Yeah, it's like
because
it's like I did,
Exactly. We worked our rear ends off for many, many years without the ease of today's internet.
Yeah.
All you got to do is go. I usually tell people, that thing that you sit in front of with the keypad on it. Just type in whatever you want to know, and it'll spit it out. If it's and then if it's something you can't find out, then come to me. But come to me as a last resort, because
the funny thing, though, Dave, is that the amount of time it would take them to message us what they're asking, they could have found it on Google in the first place.
Yeah. Well, what gets me is when they text and call me at 11 p.m., 12 a.m. Like, I'm off duty. I'm off duty. I'm home. Don't bother me. And I say it as nice as possible, but it's like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
I'll let you know what it looks like next time I talk to Eddie. How about that? That's,
Yeah.
Rob, do you still have the first one you striped?
No,
the 5150?
I really wished I did. Like I said, it was a great guitar. Because, if I did have it, I probably would strip it and send it to somebody like Craig at CHS Customs and have him, put it back to factory spec. Because it was a really great guitar. Pointy headstock. It was kind of like Dave's Blue Kramer. It was basically that same exact kind of guitar. Rosewood neck and pointy headstock. But I went to town on it and did the best I could. Actually, now that I remember, that first guitar that my ex-wife bought me, that Fernandez Strat, I took the pickguard off and I actually striped the pickguard black and white because it was a black guitar with a white pickguard. So I put tape on it and sprayed it and just made the pickguard black and white. I'm like, whoa, this is cool. So that was like the first thing I ever striped. And then that Kramer I was talking about was the next one. But basically from 1997, when I got my first Wolfgang, until probably, 1997 until probably 2003, I really started building my collection. and more information had come out, and I'd had, you know, better contact with like Scott and you know, different people that helped me, and Jerry and those guys. Um, and I really started, you know, I think by 2004, I was up to like 25 guitars, and they were all, you know, Van Halen striped guitars. I had purchased a couple of Ernie Ball Music Man EVHs. I had numerous Wolfgangs, USAs, obviously all USAs, standards and specials. Um, and by that time, Music Craft was off and running. We didn't have Lock Custom Guitars. I don't think K&E was around yet, or they were maybe just starting up. Utala, those guys, they weren't around yet. So I was getting custom bodies built, you know, by Music Craft. So I was able to do my first 5150. And back in those days, I was painting everything. I was doing it all myself. I wasn't having anybody else do them for me. Pictures were getting better. Of course, I was still stuck in the magazine days. You know, I'd have the magazines all folded out on the table, and, you know, I'd be striping stuff up. And the kids were little, so they were running around and, you know, whatever, which is great memories. And, you know, and I was using Krylon paint and all that.
Oh,
It was really cool. But now, you know, from that point to now, I've really fine-tuned my collection. And while I do have a few guitars here left that I do myself, and I still know how to paint them, and I still do them. Now these days, I rely on guys like Nick Amendolara and Chris Hubbard, because those guys just, and Craig, you know, also for the factory stuff. But I rely on those guys now to most of my painting, just because A, I'm too lazy. B, they do a better job because they have more patience than I do. And, you know, but like I said, I still do have some guitars that I've done myself. But from probably 2006 or 7 until today, I've really got to the point where I've kind of geeked out and, you know, tried to really make every little thing as accurate as I can, from, you know, scratches and scuffs to cigarette burns to write numbers on neck plates. I mean, you name it. And, you know, hanging around guys like Dave and you know, Johnny Bean and Scott and Adam Reaver and the EVH cons and, you know, Jimmy Carr. I mean, all these guys, you know, that were very friendly with Ty. I mean, you helped me with a couple projects. I remember a year or two ago, you sent me some stuff, which was incredible. I still thank you for that. I've really been lucky to have so many good contacts to be able to build this collection that I have right now. And I think right now I'm up to 43 guitars total.
It's amazing.
Yeah, it's but honestly, the last thing on, you know, not to be so long-winded, it's been a great 20 something, 22 years, 23 or 21, whatever it is. It's been so much fun. You know, I mean, I've been playing guitar for 25 years now, I think. 24, 25 years. I'm not a professional musician, but I love to play. I'm still growing. I'm still learning. I mean, for me, like I said, you know, my profession is martial arts and fitness and teaching and the firearm stuff. My hobby, I've always said, is guitar. I love to play guitar, and I love to be around professional musicians like you guys, because I learned so much. But I've really been blessed with all the contacts that have been around me all these years to be able to create and have such an amazing collection like this stuff, because it's incredible. I don't think there's many people on the East Coast other than Dave and Scott Smith and myself that have anything like this. I don't know of anybody that has that on the East Coast anyway.
Well, Rob, you know, people tap you for advice and counsel and direction and getting into doing their own build. And, you know, I guess during this time of reflection, when we are looking at all different aspects of what Eddie Van Halen gave to us, and you have so much experience in building these things, when somebody comes to you and says, hey, I've always loved this and I've never done it, like, where would you tell them to start? You know, how would you tell them, you know, how to get to get inspired, how to start, and how to take on their first build? What do you tell them?
Well, it's funny. I had a guy actually just, send me almost verbatim what you just said today. And back to what Dave said a minute ago. Like everybody, hey, how do you do this? How do you do this? Like, hey, dude, do it the way we did. Do it the old-fashioned way. Research, whatever. I say that, but like Dave and myself, I mean, we say that, we kind of joke, and sometimes it's a little frustrating. But I'm always there to help other people because I always like to help other people, because without other people's help, 20 something years ago, I wouldn't have been able to figure this stuff out. And I still ask for help on a lot of this stuff because I'm still learning. Anybody, like the guy, to answer your question, Ty, gentleman, a younger kid, I think, messaged me this morning, and he said, Bob, first he followed me on Instagram. He requested to follow me, so I accepted it. And he had a Van Halen striped guitar, and he sent me a message, and he said, hey, your collection is insane. It's like, I thought those were Eddie's guitars, and how did you get into it? And he said, I want to build a 5150. What do I do? And I wrote back to him. I had a few minutes because I was off today. And I wrote back and I said, hey, thanks so much for the compliments. I appreciate it. I said, here's some different companies you can go to for, the parts, the bodies and the necks and stuff like that. And then eBay is going to be your best friend, along with Reverb for hardware, and as far as paint's concerned, Sunset Orange, get the Chevy Orange, red, Duplicolor, engine enamel at AutoZone. And I kind of gave him some tips, and I said, here's everything you need to get to do what you're talking about. If you want to have somebody actually build it for you, obviously I gave him Dave's name and, some different painters and things like that. But I said, if you want to do it yourself, I said, that's the most honestly rewarding thing, to be able to do it yourself. I always say to people, do the first one yourself and get a feel for what it's like to actually build it. And what that does is does two things. One, it gives you a better appreciation for what you're doing because you did the first one yourself. Two, it actually puts you kind of in touch with how Eddie did it back in the 70s or whatever, when the 60s or early 70s when he first started building stuff, because that's what he did. So it puts you in kind of touch with that part of you, and you appreciate it so much more. And then the next one you do, if you want to kind of hand it off to someone, hey, can you paint this for me? I want to make it more accurate, whatever. But it's a building process. And what I tell everybody is, I said, you are never going to make a guitar that is 100% accurate to what Ed's is or George Lynch or whoever else you're building a replica of. If you're doing a replica guitar, it's never, no matter what you do, you could have the real one right next to it, and it's still never going to be 100% accurate. But we're always trying to do a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. I mean, I still look at some of these and I'm like, that stripe could be just a little bit this way, or there's a nick right here. Give me that screwdriver and jam, I'll jab the body, or put a dent in it, or whatever. I mean, I was down at Dave's house, Dave, 6 months ago, and we had Dave's 5150 out, and I was taking an X-Acto knife and scratching away at it because we were trying to add a couple things. I mean, it's a constant process.
Sure.
But that's the joy of the whole thing, is just getting your hands into it and having fun with it.
Let me digress for 1 second, Rob. You said, you told that kid the reasons why you did build your first one, and then if you want to have someone else build it, that's fine. The main reason I would tell someone to build their first one by themselves is so that when they do that and they get all the parts together and they all the hours of painting, and then they do or they have someone else do a second one, they realize and they understand why these guitars are $2,500.
Exactly.
Because until they build their own and put all the money into the parts and the labor, how labor intensive it is to paint one of these things and try to get it right, no one will, until that happens, people don't understand, and they think that when you're selling them something for that expensive, that you're either price gouging or you're overcharging. It's no. A Frankenstein is like 100 hours of relicking alone. Just the
I
relicking
know.
is like 100 hours
I
to
know.
get it right, and then sometimes it's even more than that. So that's really, I mean, other than it's just fun doing it yourself, and it's that's really one of the main reasons why you do the first one yourself, so that when someone says, yeah, this guitar is going to be blah blah blah, you don't go, what, are you kidding me? Eddie's was $80 for the neck and $50 for the body. Sorry, pal, that was 1974, and that was just for the body and neck.
No,
You
right.
know.
It's what's
So
really
yeah.
what's a little frustrating, just to kind of piggyback off of what you just said, Dave. While there's so many people, I mean, I'm sure you two guys, I mean, you guys get the same thing. You get inundated with messages on Messenger and Instagram and text messages for those people that have your personal info, every day. I mean, hey, I'm doing this. Hey, check this out, whatever. And a lot of times it's what I really like is a lot of times people will message me and, hey, look what I just did, and they're so proud of it. And I'm like, I don't look at it with a skeptical eye. I don't look at it like, oh, hey, you missed a stripe there, because there's so many like people like that out there. I look at it, I go, wow, that's freaking awesome, dude. And great job, and I mean, because they're proud of it, and they should be proud of it. And now
You don't want to shoot anyone down.
right, that's where the building process begins, because now their eyes begin to get more keen and they figure things out. Now, somebody asked me, what do you think about this? I'm not going to say, hey, that looks like crap. I'm going to say that looks amazing, but here's a couple things you could do. So on the next one, do this. But the one thing that does kind of annoy me, and Dave knows what I'm talking about because this does happen. A lot of times, as I get older, I don't respond to as much on Facebook as I used to. People would put messages up, like pictures of a guitar, and right off the bat, I know exactly everything about it. I know what it is. I know what was made, from what we gained over the last 20-something years. And someone will say, hey, what's this guitar? What's this about? And sometimes, I'll put up, hey, this was this. It was made in this time frame by, Paul Unkert painted it, or George Felice painted it. It was a Kramer, And then you'll get some chucklehead that'll jump on some random dude. And I don't even call them a troll because they actually think they know what they're talking about. And they'll get on and they'll be like, that's not true. The 5150 didn't have a pointy headstock or whatever.
That just happened to me last week.
Yeah. And it's so annoying. Because these people,
like, this is not the 5150 guitar, pal.
So I just disengage and I'm like, all right, dude, whatever. So I don't respond to as much of that. Dave and I were having a conversation about the 918V guitar. I mean, I got one back there, and the one.
Me too. That's one right there.
Yeah. And I built both of those guitars. I painted them and everything. And Dave has the second one that I did, and it's a great guitar. And we put Dave and myself, as well as some other companies, put a lot of thought into that. Matter of fact, the neck that's on that guitar is the first neck that Randy Butala from Butala Guitars ever did of that. And a lot of people
prototype.
Realize the 918V had a tilt back maple pointy headstock Kramer neck, and it had a skunk stripe in the back, and it had the snake bites in the back with a rear loaded nut. And people are like, oh, the 5150 guitar didn't have that neck on. I'm like, it's so funny because A, that's not the 5150 guitar. B, it's a backup of 5150 guitar from the 5150 tour. And yes, it's exactly like that. So it's
you finish your thing, and then I'll tell you.
No, that's it.
Stuff.
So I just kind of back off, and I don't even respond to much anymore.
So I had that guitar up for sale. It's sold actually. I have to send that out tomorrow. But when I was in the midst of selling it, some guy said all that stuff, and then he said, "Do you have certificate of authenticity and proof that was the guitar that was on the 5150 tour in '86?" And it shouldn't it be 120,000 or 150,000? I'm like, apparently you don't know how to read, because in my paragraph I said this is a replica of this guitar. So people just especially guitar players in general. I'm a guitar player, and I'll admit I don't read everything, but guitar players learn how to read all of it.
Well, it's. I mean, people do that a lot, though. They'll look at something. They'll do what's called a drive-by.
Yeah.
They'll do a drive-by. They'll look at it. Whoa, look at that. And they'll read like the opening statement, but they don't read the details. And then they'll start firing off questions and comments, and it's right in there. But I mean, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. And Kurt, thank you very much. I hope that 5150 continues to go good. And please let me know if there's anything else, we can do for you.
Yeah, we've got quite a few comments here. Quentin James is funny. He says, we are kind of slow. I think that's funny. That made me laugh. Clayton James Hicks says, today is Wolfgang Wednesday. Yes, it is. And we're so happy that Rob Johnson's agreed to join us. Rob, now you mentioned that the 5150 is your favorite guitar of all time. Let me ask you this. Of all the builds you've done, what's your favorite build of all time?
Well, actually, I would say the 5150 guitar, but that's probably the thing is, I didn't paint that one. I didn't build it. I'll pull it down after and show you. I'm sure everybody will want to see everything, so we'll go around and go through everything. I'll show you, give you the tour in a minute. But I didn't build that guitar. I didn't paint it. All I did was pay for the parts, and I had everybody else do it because that was the one guitar that I really wanted to be so accurate that I didn't even trust my own judgment on that. I mean, I've done things to it. I mean, I've changed some parts and tweaked some things, and I have done a little bit of extra relicing to it. My favorite build, you mean like from scratch, like a custom build?
Yeah, one that didn't exist until you made it. However you want to define that, whether it's you bought the body, you bought the neck, and then you began putting it all together and you painted it, but something you made. What's your favorite that you made?
It's one that I actually painted that I would say is probably, it's hard to say. I mean, I hate to sound like Eddie and, oh, they're all my children. I won't equal. That's what Eddie says about songs. So I'm not going to play that card. But I will say that I do kind of feel that way because it's hard to pick one. But what I will say, probably the blue headstock Frankie, one I did last year. I did everything on that guitar. I painted the headstock. I painted the whole body. I put everything together. It's a real Kramer body. I think it's a Musicraft neck. That one came out probably as accurate as I could possibly hope for. And I got some really, really cool pictures from someone who actually owned that guitar. Cody Barra owned that guitar at one point, the real one. He doesn't anymore, but he sent me some really cool stuff to help me building that. And that's probably one of the ones I had the most fun with. I mean, like I said, it's not my favorite Van Halen guitar, but it's probably one of the ones I had the most fun building because it was just a little bit. It was one that I probably 5-6 years ago, I never would have. I always thought it was a cool guitar, but I probably never would have thought I'd be building a blue headstock Frankie, AKA the heavy metal guitar, as people call it, because of the metal strings. But that was a fun one to do. I really had a lot of fun with that. I remember I had a couple of weeks off, and I was at my old place. It was last year. It was in the middle of the winter, or early winter, and I pretty much just hibernated in my dining room with magazines and pictures, and my laptop with stills and stuff like that, and masking tape and pinstriping, and believe it or not, that it actually also was painted in Chevy orange red, and I had all the paint, and I just geeked out on that one. So that was pretty fun. So I'd probably say the blue headstock. Yeah.
Rob, if you had to choose one other than the 5150 guitar, that's a given. That's coming with you. God forbid, but say your house was burning down, and you could take one guitar. I mean, granted, your 5150. Anything else? Which one would it be?
My Steinberger GL2T Trans-Trem, probably. And I know that, and the funny thing is, the ironic thing about that is it's not even the most fun guitar to play. It's almost weird to play. I love the guitar, and I love to play it, but as Eddie said, it's kind of hard to play sometimes because it's so small and it's. But that guitar has an incredible history behind it, how I acquired it and how I sold it and how I got it back and then what I had done to it last year and where it is now. So probably the Steinberger Trans-Trem, I would say, would probably be the one. If I had to pick one other than the 5150, it would be that one. And again, it's not even my favorite guitar to play, but for collector's purposes and just for the coolness factor, it would probably be that one.
Mike is himself
Rob,
says which. Go ahead.
Sorry,
no,
Dave.
no, okay.
Something Rob said just a minute ago. He said, when somebody posts a picture of a guitar, he knows what it is, the history of it, where it came from, because you've done all this research for all these years. Rob, when is there a guitar that you've seen that was at one time part of the Van Halen arsenal that you haven't built, or have you built them all at this point?
Dave and I were actually just talking about that either today earlier or yesterday. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely guitars that that Eddie has.
There are literally hundreds.
Yeah, hundreds that I haven't.
That need to be built.
Striped guitars per se. I mean, Dave and I and others, I mean, all of us, we're still seeing pictures of striped Kramers that were back from the 80s. We're like, whoa, where'd that one come from? I've never seen that one before. Because there were so many they did back then. Granted, Eddie didn't play them all, but they were all basically built for Eddie. I mean, he might have picked them up and jammed on them for a little bit, but they never necessarily, a lot of them necessarily weren't at 5150. And that's funny because you see on YouTube a lot, or even in magazines, Eddie Van Halen, Kramer played on the Diver Down tour. It's like, wait, he never played that on the Diver Down tour. He might have had it on tour with him, but I can probably tell you most of the guitars he had on every tour with him. And a lot of those Kramers were not even on tour. They were built for him. And they might have went back to the studio, but then they went into private hands. But, it's hard to say. But honestly, I have a Dragon Snake guitar that's being built right now that hopefully will be ready by Christmas time. Jeff Rich from RCA Guitars is painting that one.
Cool.
Of Chris Locke, he did the body. So that's one that I've always wanted.
Well,
so
I have a picture of one here that we haven't seen until this past week. And this is it here.
Yes.
We just uncovered this one this past week. I'd never seen that one before, but that's one of Eddie's original guitars.
And actually, to go off of that, to kind of T-bone off what Ty just said, there's actually a lot of, well, not a lot, but there's a handful of 5150 backup guitars that Eddie had on 5150 tour, and also some on the OU2 tour, that they look like the 5150. They look like the 918V. Some of them have Kramer logos that are all in capital letters, which I kind of think is cool, and some of them have them which are not. I have not attempted those yet. There's another guitar which I actually have a life-size poster of it on my wall behind there. It's called the Auction Guitar, and the Kramer Auction Guitar. And it's a Frankenstein style. It was built by Paul Unkert and painted by Paul, we believe. And it looks basically exactly like the Vetus guitar, the Vetus Gerolitis guitar, which I do have a copy of. I do have a replica of that guitar, which I got from Dave, actually. Great guitar. And that's one that I haven't done yet. So I would say, yeah, I mean, there's, as far as the striped guitars, I don't have the striped Music Man anymore. Although I think I'll do one of those at some point again. And I don't have a striped Wolfgang anymore. I'll probably do one of those. I've had those, the two burritos and a root beer float Wolfgang, that Eddie played, the as is guitar. He didn't play it live with that.
From the two and a half men.
Yeah. I've had one of those. I don't have that anymore. So I mean, there's a pretty good handful of them that either I've had at one point and don't anymore, or haven't done yet. But it's funny because, like I said to Dave today, as far as the striped guitars are concerned, my collection now, I've kind of got it kind of where I want it, striped wise. Um, it's inevitable that I'm going to do some more down the road. I think the next project, the big project, the one day that I'd like to do, I'd like to do a purple double neck Music Man. I'll probably do one of those one day.
Very cool.
Yeah, there's definitely a handful that I probably haven't done yet, haven't attempted. That Kramer that came out, actually, Ty, that you probably remember this back about 6 months ago. That Diver Down Kramer. It's a white and black striped Kramer with a maple neck on it that Eddie played very rarely for the Diver Down tour.
Once, as far as I know.
Input jack on the top.
Yep.
That's one that I think maybe one day I'll do. Chad Wall actually had one made. And Chad, if you're watching this show, let me know if you ever want to sell that. I'll buy it.
Good luck.
Hey, Dave, let's say hey to a few more people that's come in. Fruitcake Tony's here. Tony, always good to see you. Micah's himself has popped in. Kurt S5150, always good to see you. Football Legends is here. Tone Talk, hey Mark, good to see you. Will Neal is here. Alan is here. Good to see you guys. Thanks for joining us. So Rob, if you've got the striped side of the collection of the house taken care of, what's next? Are you moving more into adding more Music Man guitars, PVs, EVA? What are you doing next?
Other than the Dragon Snake and maybe a couple, like I said, a couple striped ones maybe here and there that I could see myself doing down the road, and the double neck Music Man, I'm kind of getting in the mode now for different kind of guitars. Like one of the builds that I just did, a couple months ago was my Lynch guitar. Chris Lock body. I'm actually going to put a different neck on. I have a custom Charvel type neck coming in for it, but it's all set up. This one's got a floating bridge. I never have floating bridges, but it's all relic and an amazing job done by Nick Amendolara. So I'm kind of trying to branch out a little bit now with some different stuff too. I'm not saying I'm getting out of the Van Halen thing. I mean, if anything, the tragedy that just happened back on October 6th, losing Eddie, again, thoughts and prayers to the Van Halen family and camp. We lost an amazing guitarist, but also a hero, incredible human being. But if anything, that tragedy has kind of inspired me to, man, I'm going to do some more. I want to do some more Van Halen stuff. But along with that, I'm trying to also branch off to do some different stuff too. And Dave's kind of been a pretty good inspiration to me on that as well, because Dave's been kind of, I'm not going to say getting out of the Van Halen sector, but he's obviously he's been branching off and getting rid of some of the Van Halen guitars, but he's also been getting some different guitars, which has kind of been a huge inspiration to me. And, the Charvel stuff that Dave's been getting into was just like, whoa, that's pretty cool. So.
I'm doing a couple. The reason why I'm getting rid of some of these Van Halen guitars is because, I know there are a lot of people out there that now that he's passed really would like to have one and would like to have something that's maybe a bit closer to the originals than they could get from EVH. And right now you can't get anything from EVH because everything's backordered. Number two, stuff that I can rebuild whenever I want. It's their guitars, and I did. Me and Nick, we partnered up a couple years back, and we've been doing these things together. But I can always if I want another one, I'll just make one. You know, there are a couple guitars, a couple of striped guitars that are just never going to go anywhere. My 5150 is never going anywhere because I don't think I could possibly get any closer to what the original one looks like. And my Rasta guitar, because first of all, that's the hardest one to paint in the world, and it can't be done twice. I just don't think I can do it twice. So there you go. Everything else is up for grabs, at some point or another.
Bent Tom responded to my question, Rob. He says, when I asked what you were going to do next, he said Rob is going to sell all of his guitars and strictly use big jazz box guitars from here on out.
I just got that. That's cool.
Hi, Bozique.
Hey, Bozique. Colt Eastwood says, "Hey, Rob, new fan, love your work and info." That's cool, man.
Yeah, I just thank you, Colt Eastwood. I love the name, by the way. Love the name.
Thunder Falcon says he would love to see a John Sykes replica Les Paul custom. Well, they did do that, 2006, and they did two versions. They did an aged version and a non-aged version. And I wish you well on your pursuit in trying to obtain one. They are highly sought after. I think they made less than 100 of each. Don't quote me on that. Or you could build one yourself. You could get a 76, 77, 78 Les Paul custom and go from there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
I'd like to have one too, by the way, Thunder Falcon. So you're not alone.
Yeah.
So, are there any guitars you'd like to show us real quick before we move on to your amp and your rig?
Yeah, if you guys want, I can just do a real brief, give you a brief tour and just kind of show you the guitars and just, briefly explain. I'll kind of roll through them, and if anybody has any specific questions on any particular one after, I can answer them real quick. But if you guys just want to kind of see the actual room.
Will Neal, my Frankie has been sold for quite some time
now. Forgive me if you can't see everything, but here's kind of coming down the stairway. There's the actual auction guitar. It's not real. Can you see that?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Eddie is in the corner.
Eddie?
So here's a strap collection. Here's a strap collection. So these are some straps that I've accumulated over the years. We have the original VH1 strap with a dog leash type chain. We have the World War II gunner's belt, Shark Destroyer. It's got the big turnbuckle up there. I'm sure you guys can see. A couple of Van Halen 2 straps with the zombie pin on the bottom. If you guys can see that.
That's awesome, Rob.
A T150 Kramer strap, which actually is, believe it or not, is a banjo strap. A lot of people don't realize that he was using a banjo strap for that. That's what that actually is. For the 5150 guitar. Then we have a couple of original Ernie Ball straps. I have the original custom strap box that he was using.
Mm-hmm.
TV Wolfgang strap. Believe it or not, that's actually
Looks like we lost his audio.
I think we lost Rob's audio.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, got you back. Yeah, we lost you for a minute.
Oh, sorry. The PV Wolfgang straps had the dog leash clips are actually a charcoal brushed kind of a finish on them. A lot of people don't realize that. And then the EVH straps, you had some chrome ones, and then obviously you had the brass ones. So kind of strap collection. That was me a year ago at Scott Smith's house, playing one of those double necks.
Rob, do you have your hand on the microphone? Your thumb?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yep, gotcha.
Just some different pictures and stuff. Try to roll through everything here best I can. Les Paul Telecaster. That's a yellow Yngwie Malmsteen replica that was done by Craig. I have a Kramer. Cool. Kramer Pacer, the Lynch guitar you guys saw, and then a Kramer Farrington. This is a FX Lynch series bass guitar. This particular trainer right here is one that was in Eddie's arsenal for many years, but I don't think he played it very often. It was actually had a sustainer in it. So that's a replica that I did of that guitar. This is the multicolored tape Kramer pacer that Eddie was pulled out in the diver down for. Here's a custom Kramer double neck that he
Secrets.
played a Cathedral on. Not originally in the studio. He played a Gibson on the studio, but live he ended up quarter of the way through the tour. He switched over and had these built. That's all Uncle. He had a red one too. That's a cool guitar. It is the real deal. It's custom made. 12 string on the top, aluminum neck, and then the bottom is 6 string. Steinberger Transtrem GL2T, same guitar that Eddie had. That's my little custom Les Paul little guitar. It's not a. It's actually a Lotus guitar that I kind of did some work to and repainted it, converted it myself. This is a Hot for Teacher style little 3/4 Strat. It was actually a Strat headstock, and I took it to my bench grinder and ground it down to look like a classic headstock. And had a friend of mine make a red Kramer logo. That little guitar plays great. And VH1, that's actually an EVH guitar, but I've highly modified it with the Gibson logo and some the right tuners. And it does have a Floyd on it. However, I've reliced it and actually put a little white tab on the end of it. It's a Mark Blankenship custom pickguard, which looks like it was cut out with a butter knife, like Eddie's was, with all the little extra holes. This neck here is all ready to go for the Dragon Snake when it gets done.
That's cool.
That is the mighty Megazone Hydra or whatever. Yeah. This used to be along to Dave. This is probably the most accurate Shark guitar. It's a Donnie Ward guitar, which means it was built by Donnie, and he custom made everything to the exact specs of a real Ibanez Destroyer. And then Nick Amendolara painted it. This Bumblebee guitar, Dave got the real one that I had, so I ended up having this one. But again, I kind of like the black and white. I customized it to some more different Eddie standards. It's actually got Schaller double tabs on it, and I reliced it. Got the little paint on the 10th fret, and I
you do, yeah.
I actually put a bunch of dings and dents into it to make it look more like Eddie's, because the front actually looks great. The back is off, but one day I'll probably upgrade that. It has a version 1 Floyd Rose on it to make it a little bit more accurate. Here is the Circles guitar. Again, it's a custom 2-inch thick body by Chris Locke and painted by Nick. Also has Schaller double tabs on it with a vintage nut, prototype nut. Frankenstrat, this is probably the closest one I've ever had. You can see the different versions and arrows of the necks behind it. The jump neck and then the hockey stick neck, which was on it for the Feel So Good video. Again, Nick painted this one for me right after he saw the picture, the real one at the Met last year. So it was a really good, accurate version. Great playing guitar. This is the Charvel Star Women and Children First guitar. I kind of wanted to go for, I've had it painted before, but I kind of changed, and I wanted to go for the white look in that, that original 1980 version of the picture. So I kind of wanted to keep that vintage white look. Here's my Rasta guitar. I painted the headstock myself last year. And here is my pride and joy, my 5150.
Beautiful.
This is just that guitar is just it's amazing. I'm so blessed to have that, and being that's my favorite guitar, I'm lucky. I've geeked out on that, to string trees, to whale tail Floyds, to even the screws for the posts are the bigger expanded heads with the wider heads, the original prototype screws. I mean, I just geeked out on that thing, or Hubbard did, I should say. Kramer Ad Frankie, which was basically the first guitar that, as we know, Kramer built for Ed, which is basically this one right here.
Yeah, that's really cool.
my rude guitar, my weird shapes guitar. It's also 2-inch thick body. I've gone back and forth with it, but I went with the Fair Warning era Dan Electro style 3x3 neck on this one with a rosewood board, just because I thought it was kind of cool. I like that version. Hot for Teacher.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty relic, as you can see. It's pretty nasty and beat up, but Chris Hubbard did this one for me. Actually, he did it at my house when he came to visit a couple years ago. Here's the blue headstock Frankie I was talking about, otherwise known as the heavy metal guitar. That one came out pretty cool. Very Frankie-like, with a quarter under the bridge, although it's upside down. It's a real Kramer body, but I had to do some modifications and kind of hog out the humbucker cavity to make it look more like Eddie's. And I even split the wood where the Floyd post goes into, like the real one was. It had the wood split. And then I Gorilla glued it so it actually made it playable, which it is. This is the was a backup guitar on the 5150 tour with a Ripley neck. It's actually a Ripley guitar. I don't think it's a Ripley neck, but it's not wired for a Ripley. Eddie's never was. But you guys may remember this. It had crown head tuners on it. It was a 24 fret neck, and the motif was striped like the 5150 guitar. And for the Andrew Bennett book, Eruption in the Canyon, you can see he had a bunch of tape on the side by the toggle, by the input jack right there. So I, of course, had to do that. My 1984 Kramer, 1986 era. So it's got the replacement neck on it. Nick Amendola, Relic Performer, did an amazing job on it. Chris Hubbard painted the body, did a really cool job on it. Again, it's 1986 era. That one came out pretty neat. Here is the Neptune Kramer. It's got the kind of the custom headstock shape. It's kind of an off shape. It's different. It's more paddle looking than the regular hockey sticks, as you can see. Prototype nut, prototype string tree. And Hubbard also did that one. The original is actually in the Hard Rock Cafe in Los Angeles. I was just out there last year again, saw the real one, got some really cool pictures of it, and sent them to Chris so he could paint it. I relicked the input jack plate with salt water to make it rusty like the real one. Here is a replica of the bowling ball Red Cloud Ripley. This is it's actually a Ripley body, but it's not wired up. It has all the knobs and everything, but it doesn't have the electronics in it. So basically, it's like a Kramer Beretta. It's just one pickup, one knob. I need to put a Bartolini pickup in it. That's just a basic Kramer pickup, and get it wired up one day. One day I'll do that. And that's actually not Eddie's signature, but it's a mock-up of what Eddie's signature would look like. It's got the 5150 on the on the 22nd fret.
Hey Rob, say hello to our buddy Jerry Leica. He's lurking in the chat
Hey
somewhere.
Jerry, how you doing, buddy? Jerry, I want that 2-inch thick Rasta body. Set me up, dude. I'm kidding you. I already talked to him about that. This is a Holy Grail Beretta neck by Musicraft. Scott did that one professionally for him, or actually custom for me. Did a great job. This one is Dave has this one too. This is the 85 Hard Rock guitar. I actually painted this one myself. Did it a year ago or so. For those of you that don't know, this is the original 1984 neck with the 2 stars on. This was originally on this guitar in the 1984 tour when it had chrome hardware on it. And then in 1986, he put black hardware on it, put this neck on it, which is known as the replacement neck. And this original neck went on the 85 Hard Rock giveaway guitar that him and Val donated in 85. And Ed went ahead and just said that it was one he played live. And it's kind of a fabrication, never played the guitar live. He played that neck live. But he stuck that neck on there, so he's half right. Cool guitar. 918V. This is the last one that I did. This is my personal one. Again, that's a Chris Lock body. And Butala neck, really cool guitar. It's fun to play. Actually plays well too. This is a Chinese Gibson Les Paul copy guitar, $300. I got from Chris Hubbard. He got it and he modified it put a Floyd nut on it and a Steinberger bridge and painted it up like the real one through a PV Wolfgang pickup in it. It's a really cool guitar, and it actually does play well, believe it or not. There's a custom striped Makita drill. I did that myself years ago. Purple Ernie Ball Music Man, EVH. Redid by Craig, CHS Custom Guitars. Here's my 5150. I just upgraded the stickers, the numbers. The numbers I had on them were off. These ones I got through Michael James. Custom did these for me last week. They're accurate. They're more accurate. Dave, I'll talk to you about these numbers.
I have them. He sent them to me.
Okay, good, because these.
I've got 2 sets of.
Yeah,
he sent me 2 sets of those, and he sent me 4 or 5 sets of
the little number ones.
eye hooks.
Oh, okay. Okay, good. I had some custom work done to this. I had the route put in on underneath. It's a real Gatto Floyd like Eddie's was, but I had a professional route put in mine like Eddie's was. I went above and beyond. This is an Axis EX. That's why it's just an incredible top on it. Great guitar. I chose the EX for this one because Eddie's original number 1 didn't have a signature, and the EXs didn't either. So this one went well. Dave, you recognize this guitar?
Yep.
Very rare, hard to find, green USA PV Wolfgang Special. And I did the modification to it to make it like Ed's as far as the big, stupid rod eye bolt on there. I put a single coil sustainer pickup in it, like the real one had. Then put the foam in there, so it's pretty accurate. One thing about this guitar that I am going to turn it around and show, because Dave did this to this guitar, and none of the PVs ever came this way, but Ed's did have this done. It's got custom snake bite modification done to it, where it's a rear-loaded nut like Eddie's was. It didn't start out life that way, but he had it custom done sometime in 2003, 4. And Dave at one time owned this guitar and went above and beyond and brought this guitar to Paul Unkert. And Paul Unkert professionally put the snake bite nut in there. So that's one thing that no PV Wolfgang ever had other than Ed's, a couple of Ed's. So that was kind of cool. Did that, I'm very happy to have that.
Is that the guitar, Dave, Rob, is that the guitar that ended the 2004 tour?
Yes. And here's a picture of Eddie playing it. This is a guitar that Eddie smashed in the 2004 Tucson, Arizona show at the end. He smashed it. But it did come back to life, and it was actually sold on auction. Dave probably has more information on that. But the sustainer pickup was taken out of it, but it did come back to life.
Yeah, Chip Ellis rebuilt it. I played the guitar. It's really an amazing guitar, and it got sold for a lot of money.
This is a copy. Well, it's a real PV Wolfgang standard, but it's a copy that Dave and I actually bought together a couple of years ago at the Music Emporium in Long Island. Dave and I walked in one day, and I'm like, "Wow, a red standard!" And I made a deal, and the guy sold it to me. And we went to Office Max. I got the right stickers. I put them on. I think I even painted the scoop and the headstock, like right at Dave's house. And I found some yellow Ernie Ball stickers, put them on the bottom. And the only difference between this and Ed's was the one that Jim DeCola built for Eddie in '95 at the end of the Balance tour. Is Ed's was a quilt top. And actually, it did not say EVH Wolfgang. It just said PV because it was a prototype. But that didn't really matter to me. This one came out pretty cool. Here's a picture of Ed actually playing it from a Young Guitar magazine. Ed did play this at the tail end of the Balance tour. You see the Sacramento video from '95, October '95. It shows Ed playing that the whole tour. Here is a PV Wolfgang This is basically this one. I modified it to be like this one. It's a special body, so it doesn't have an arch top, but I drilled a hole and put a tone knob in it, put the 5150 stickers on, put an original USA Floyd on it. Pickups were the same. I went with a standard because it was a quilt top. And this is a USA neck with a tilt back headstock. So that one came out pretty cool. This is my number 4 EVH prototype guitar. The one that Eddie played in 2000.
Oh, wait.
Sorry, 2007. 2007. Oh, 2007, 08. Right, Dave, right there. This guitar, actually, the real one is at the Hard Rock Cafe in Philadelphia. There's a picture of Eddie actually playing it. Chris Hubbard and I actually had lunch right next to this guitar. And Eddie and Matt Bruck decided one time before one of the shows to hog out the pickup cavity a little bit more, basically with a screwdriver and a hammer, so they could move the pickup around a little bit more. True story. EVH Stealth USA, custom kill switch, electrical tape on the pickup like Eddie's was. Really cool guitar, plays great. It's got a titanium nut on it. And the 2015 Tour Relic. This is a USA guitar that Chris Hubbard reliced. I reliced the headstock myself, and Chris Hubbard did the body, kill switch in it. And yeah, that came out incredible. I guess since I'm right here, you want me to just go over the rig real quick?
That looks like a fun rig, Rob.
All right. Well, it's first off your standard pedals, which are running right into the input. You know, obviously you have the MXR Phase 90, the EVH flanger, MX obviously it's EVH2, the flanger, but I mean the phaser, the Super Octave, the OC3 Boss pedal, which Eddie used for the growling sound that he got, EVH wah pedal, and then you know, just a little custom EVH switcher that I made, and I have a Digitech FS3X foot switch so I can swap back and forth between different patches in my rig. Set my pedal board up kind of like Eddie's would be. It's smaller, but it works for me. All this stuff runs in line with the right into the input. And then I have it's technically a 6505 20-watt head, but it's customized. It's got a 5150 logo on it with a PV logo. It's got we whited out or silvered out the 6505 and put an EVH block letter stickers on there, so it looked even better. Made it look like Balance with a little check plus and the number 2 yellow tape. Furman power conditioner. Eventide time factor, which has the ability to do multiple delays, and the Eventide pitch factor, which gets the stereo detune. Then I got a QSC audio power amp, which allows me to get a true wet, dry, wet sound. So obviously I have 3 EVH cabinets. The one on the left is wet. The one on the right is wet, and the one in the middle is dry. So basically on the left and the right cabs, what I'm getting is I'm getting 2 separate delays coming from the Eventide time factor here. So that's sending 2 separate delays, a longer delay on the left and a shorter, quicker delay on the right, which basically is reproducing Eddie's Balance sound. And those are all set to the Eventide time factor. The Eventide pitch factor is set to micro pitch, as you can see, which is the Balance sound. And on the left, it is set to -9 cents detune. And on the right, it is set to +9 cents detune. And that's what gives you that big, full sound stereo detune. I'm running.
And is the QSC pushing the 2 outside cabs?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And so your Eventides are running through the QSC to the outside cabs.
Correct.
And you've got a dry feed from the 5150 into the QSC to the outside cabs.
Correct.
Is that right? Okay.
Yep, that's pretty much exactly how it goes. Now, additionally, to alleviate me running through the effects loop, Eddie used one of these. Well, actually, I have a noise suppressor back here. I don't know if you can see it. See that little Bray box, LO1
Yeah.
back there? That little Bray box is something that Ed actually had too. He used a different one. Chris Hubbard could tell me what exactly model Ed was using. It was something he got through Friedman, I think. That little Bray box allows the power amp in the head to work. In other words, if you're running your effects, these two effects, through the effects loop of your head, it'll work and it'll sound good, but you're not allowing your power amp, or excuse me, the power tubes of your amp to really kick in. So that Bray box allows you to come out of that head into the Bray box and directly into the cabs, alleviating the need to use the effects loop. So you allow your the power tubes to really kick in, and what that does, it gives you a much more full sound. So I know that seems like a lot of information, but back in September when Chris Hubbard came, or actually no, I'm sorry, April. He came in April. We put this whole box setup together. And I'll tell you, it just kicks ass. This is the best. We call it a baby balance rig, a mini balance rig, but there's really nothing mini about it. I mean, yeah, they're 1x12 heads, and it's only a 20-watt, 1x12 cabs, and yeah, it's only a 20-watt head. But I'm telling you, it's loud, and you could certainly gig with this little rig. No doubt. I mean, I can't even run the thing 2 down here, and it's so loud, and it sounds incredible. So that's pretty much a rundown of my rig. Little striped mailbox compliments of Dave Nesdahl a few years ago. Some little striped Converse sneakers that my son, who is now 21, actually wore back when he was a baby. I painted those for him. My friend Ken Gakowski actually gave them to me for a birthday present. He painted them up. My son did wear those one time.
That's awesome.
We have the EV8 statue, the little with the EVH guitars, and that is a can of original Schwinn Sunset Orange paint from 1979, 1980. That's probably the stuff that he was using back then on the 5150 guitar. And you got to have the big case, the anvil case and the striped sneakers, and so essentially this is the Van Halen room right now, guys.
That's fun, Rob. That's fun.
I'd say.
Yeah, it's a good time. I've really, like I said, I've been blessed to be able to have the contacts and the friends and the relationships and the tools and the time, money. It's probably why I'm divorced.
Hey, Alan, how are you?
To have this stuff, and it's I'm blessed, and I really am, and I really thank everybody for watching the stuff that we do. I'm honored to have Ty and Dave have me on the show to be able to show that stuff. Thank you.
That's so fun. I've got to share a comment with you, Rob, because I just loved it. Fast Eddie VH, he says it takes balls to relic a $3,700 guitar. Do you want to tell us the story of your tour relic?
Yeah. So let me grab it. Actually, plug my thing in there. Hold on. Interesting story on this guitar.
It also takes a cap, Kurt said.
What did he say?
Kurt said it also takes a cap.
It does.
Very nice.
So I don't know if you can hear that, but
Very nice.
it sounds pretty cool from here. And that's the
Yes.
wet rig. So this guitar I bought brand new in 2016. It was a $3,200 guitar, but I think I got a deal on it for 25, 26. And I was like, wow, that is so cool. You know, I just seen Eddie in the 2015 tour. My ex-girlfriend and I had went to see him. I'd taken her to her first Van Halen concert, and Eddie was playing this guitar, you know, and I just, wow, that's so cool. So I had a Stealth at the time, and it was a Stealth Special, and I actually relicked it and painted it to look like this. And it came out okay. I was happy with it, but it just wasn't, you know, wasn't anything like this. I ended up getting rid of that guitar, and I went through the phase of I want to get a factory finish cream one. Excuse me. So I did, and it didn't have the kill switch in it. This one's, you know, obviously works, but so I got this thing, and it was absolutely drop dead gorgeous, you know, beautiful finish. It was awesome. It was great. I loved it. Played incredible. And I had it, what, Dave, like 3 days, I think, maybe.
Yep.
And I was living in my old apartment, and it was standing in it was in a guitar stand, right? And I had my Shark guitar. I didn't have all my guitars on the wall. I had a bunch of guitar stands. I had some on the wall. My Shark guitar, which was not that one, it was my last one, was next to it. And the damn cat was upstairs, you know, running around the room, going through my guitars, whatever, who knows, trying to play with a catnip or whatever. And I remember I was in my bedroom, and I heard a bump. Actually, Dave, Johnny, and I were doing a show that night. We were doing one of Johnny Bean's shows. And I heard a bump, and kind of like a bang. And I said, what the hell was that? And I said, oh, man, it came from my guitar room. Now, normally, if any of these guitars falls down, I really don't care, because it fits the part, right? To a point.
Right.
And I came in and I see my Ibanez Destroyer, or my Shark guitar, I should say, lying on the ground. I said, what the hell, damn freaking cat. And I went over and I looked down, and here was this guitar, which was sitting in a stand like this, all of a sudden was like this. And let me see if I can find where the dent was. That was on the top. First, how the hell are you going to tell now, right?
Right.
It was somewhere up in here. There was this big dent. Went through the finish, and I mean, it probably wasn't any bigger than this one right here. This one right here, where my finger is, probably smaller than that. And it wasn't black. I mean, you kind of had to look to see it, but once you saw it, you'd be like, ooh, that sucks, you know, because it chipped the finish and it did put kind of an indentation in it. And I'll tell you what, I love animals. I love them a lot, and I love my cat, who still is upstairs. But if that cat
It's still upstairs.
That cat I would have been like Guskowski, and I probably would have field goaled the cat out the window. You know, I was so freaking pissed. I mean, I think my neighbor, my landlord, probably heard me that day. Like, oh my gosh, I was so fired up. And I'm picking the thing up, I'm looking at it, and oh my God, I went downstairs and I tried to mix up some paint to see if I could kind of, you know, and I got it looking okay. But a $3,000 guitar that you just bought, basically brand new with a friggin' dent in it, you know, it's just driving me nuts. So Hubbard called me, and I told him, I said, you know, I told him what happened. He says, hey, is the cat still alive? And I'm like, yeah. If I can find her, she won't be. But no, I mean, obviously, you know, I'd cooled down. And he said, hey, he said, let me send it to me. And he says, I'll tool relic it. And I'm like, huh? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I just did mine. He was working on doing his. And he says, I'm telling you, man, it'll come out amazing. And he told me what he was going to do. And he said, I'll even put the kill switch in. They got a kill switch right here. And I said, really? And I said, let me think about it. And I think I went upstairs and I looked at it one more time, and then I kind of put it down and I said, you know what? That sounds like a great idea. So I literally took the neck off, I think, what did I take off? I took the eye bolts out. I left the pickups and everything. Took the neck off, the Floyd off, the knobs, but basically I left all the electronics in it. And I sent him the body that same day, or the next day, I think it was. And I said, here you go. And I ended up taking an X-Acto knife to the head. I don't know if you can see it, to the headstock, and scoring it all. You can kind of see it, kind of scoring it up like Eddie's was. I
Did a
took
good job.
warm water, poured some salt into a cup, mixed it, took a Q-tip and went around to all the metal parts to rust them up a little bit, which is what Eddie basically did. I took the eye bolts, put them in like a muriatic type acid for about 10 minutes, took them out, so it took the chrome off, blackened them up a little bit. And about a month later, Hubbard sent it back to me, and I was just blown away. And it came out incredible. Put it back together, and then I brought it down to Nesdal's place maybe, I don't know, a couple months later, and we went over and compared it to one of the real ones. And we were both pretty amazed at how well it fared to the real one. But the one thing that Dave and I did, additional to it, Dave, Nick Amendolara, we dropped the neck off to him, or the guitar off to him, and he kind of relicked up the back of the headstock. And then Dave and I kind of relicked up inside the cavity here to make it kind of dark and, kind of blackened a little bit because it just looked too new inside the cavity, But yeah, that's compliments of my cat.
It turned out great.
Yeah, it did. It's a great guitar. I mean, it's cool. I mean, it's got a nice gloss to it, but I don't know if you guys can see. It's all
so that guitar was originally white.
Yeah.
So he reversed the process then.
Right. So
instead of going black and then white over black, he went black over white on that.
Well, it's not actually over the white. What he did was he chipped off all the white spots
And filled it in black.
and filled it in with black.
Wow, he did a beautiful job on that.
Yeah, see, so the real one, or the ones that Chip did, were black guitars that were painted white cream poorly, and then they relicked them, obviously intentionally. As Dave said, I never could figure out how the heck Hubbard was going to do it, but he did it, and he nailed it. He did the reverse process, and basically took the cream guitar and just literally chipped off the cream down to the wood. And then once he got everything down to the wood, he basically taped everything off and painted it black. And then he clear coated it, and then basically took an X-Acto knife and went through the grueling process of checking the whole body, which, obviously came out incredible.
Beautiful.
And I think he also did Pete Caruccio's guitar. And
Yeah, Pete's guitar was here today. He came over with that, and I set that up for him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a great guitar. I mean, it plays, it really does. It plays incredible. It feels great. Plays great. And I even did the little thing. I put the rubber band around the pickup, and if you can see the gaffer's tape over the pickup like Eddie had done,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a cool guitar. But yeah, that's kind of the story on the Tour Relic. So it's
That's
not
awesome.
the real Tour Relic, but it is the real USA $3,000 guitar that was customized to look like the Tour Relic. And I mean, it came out incredible. Very happy with this. And I always thought this was a cool guitar. I mean, I loved Eddie playing the Stealth, but for some reason, something about this guitar, I don't know, it just had a cool factor to it,
Well, it's not something that everyone can have.
Exactly, yeah.
Hey, R2, R3, and hey, Dan of New Jersey.
Hey, guys.
Cat has 8 lives. Kurt has.
I know, that's hilarious. I laughed at that as soon as Kurt wrote it. I laughed.
Hey, Jimmy, 1647. Well, that's cool, Rob, man. That's really awesome. You got a great collection.
It's been a lot of fun, and like I said, I mean, a lot of it's, both of you guys have contributed to the stuff that's here. From both of you have I've acquired stuff from you to actually build some of these. And just the overall, just the friend. The biggest thing about this, what makes it the most fun is to be able to share this stuff with people, whether you're sharing it on Facebook or Instagram, whatever kind of social media. What makes this stuff fun for me is being able to build friendships and just, I guess, to say, geek out on this stuff sometimes and talk about, how can we do this stuff better? And obviously getting together and playing. Because, there's nothing like getting together and playing. And you plug one of these things in and you got to set up like this or what you guys have. And you play and you're like, wow, that's just awesome. Ty, I know you play out and that's got to be an incredible feeling. But honestly, to sit home here and just do the stuff by myself and not be able to talk to people and have friendships, or whatever, it would be just such a waste. And, a post that I put on my Facebook page the day after Eddie passed, I as awful as it was, and as much as we're going to miss the guy, as what he's given us, the friendships that band and that man have, created in my life are just incredible. And that's a whole nother level of emotion.
I said this last week. I said if
I
it wasn't for Eddie Van Halen, the three of us would never have met. This show would never be what it is.
That's right.
I would not know who Johnny Bean is. I wouldn't know anyone in the chat. It's just one guy has brought us all together. It's amazing. One guy and one band. One band.
Yeah, it's powerful. It's powerful that creatively he moved each of us in a unique way, and we've all been affected by that differently and yet similarly. And that's pretty cool that we can share all of these experiences together, Rob. I echo your sentiment.
Yeah.
Here. I third it.
Daniel asks, can you give a little bit more information on the Bray pedal on the back of your amp setup? Daniel, I'm going to revert you to Chris Hubbard on that one. All I can tell you is it allows you to alleviate using the effects loop and being able to go straight into the cabs from the head, so you allow the power tubes of that amp to kick in. Whereas if you're running those effects through the effects loop, they don't, the tubes don't get a chance. The power tubes don't kick in like they would normally. And that's all I can really tell you, because that's all I really understand from it. But Chris Hubbard would be the one you should reach out to. Send him a message and just tell him exactly that. Say, hey, I was watching the show tonight, and the rig that you set up for Rob, what exactly does the Bray box do? And he'll give you a little bit more info than I could with that explanation.
Awesome.
Rob, you did an awesome job on your pedal board too. It's so clean, organized.
Yeah, it really is. And the funny thing was, the actual thing that was interesting about that pedal board was, or not the pedal board per se, but the actual the delay and the time, the pitch factor. I had the time factor. And if you're going to run a true wet, dry, wet rig, you have to have a delay that will shoot out at least 2 delays. You have to have 2 separate delays. And the only thing, I can't tell you what they're set to, I'd have to look, but all I can tell you is that the cab on the left basically goes, up, up, and the one on the right goes up, up, up. What that does is it gives you a pinging effect. It gives you that big, huge delay. And you need to have those 2 separate delays when you're running a wet, dry, wet. You can't have the same delay setting on both. You can, but it's not going to be a true wet, dry, wet setup. So I already had that. And my original plan when we built this was I was going to use my Boss PS6 harmonizer, which is a great pedal. It's an incredible pedal. I know we've all used them, and I call that pedal the balance in a box pedal, because it's got the most incredible detune setting. However, with that with that pedal, the only thing it doesn't allow you to do is dial in a negative and a positive detune on separate cabs. It would give you the same detune sound, which would still be a wet, dry, wet setup. However, if you really want to be true to Eddie, he had it 9 cents positive on the left or right. I mean, it could be backwards, but 9 cents positive on the left and 9 cents negative on the right. And that particular pedal would not allow you to do that. That's the PS6 is a great pedal if you're going to play through like a combo amp and get that harmonized detune sound. That's perfect for that. But Hubbard convinced me at the last minute, about a week before he came up. He said, listen, he said, I know you want to use that PS6 harmonist, and it's a great pedal. And I still have it over there. He said, I know it's going to run you a few $100. You know, I got a good deal on it, because if you really want to, you know, get, he says, you're going all out to this effect, you know, just, he said, I'm telling you, he says, do this one last thing and you got it freaking made, and you can't even, you'll never get any better. He says, get a pitch factor. And I glad I did, because the two of those look perfect next to each other. They match and they work in conjunction with each other. And it allows me to get that positive and negative 9 cents separate. And what you get is you get that little bit more of a stereo separation when you're playing. You know, maybe my ears couldn't hear it, but I'm glad I did it, because that just would have been one of those little things that would have just annoyed me, that if I didn't have it, you know, once I figured that out. You know?
It widens it out. It widens it out quite a bit. Now, and you're going to have to help me with this. I certainly don't have the knowledge that you have. So this +9, -9 that was going on, that was during what era? That was during the balance era?
The foreign law. Well, he might have tweaked it a little bit, but Dave, it was the foreign lawful current knowledge and the balance era, right?
Well, it actually started. It started in Diver Down. The 3 cabinets started in '82, and each year.
Was he moving 9 cents? Was he moving 9 cents either way as early as Diver Down?
I don't think it not that much. Not that much.
The 9 cents really kicked in balance in the '90s. Yeah.
Okay.
But you're right, Dave. Actually, if you go back and you hear, the EVH chorus pedal that came out, we had Pete Thorne doing videos playing, you know, Pretty Woman and Secrets, and you know, he was playing along to those, and it was like, you know, when you hear that, I'm like, wow, you're right. I mean, Diver Down did have that kind of a stereo separation to it. You're right. That's a good point. Not to the effect of the '90s. I mean, we all know, you know, well, I mean, I guess you can break it down. Van Halen 1, Van Halen 2, Women and Children First, Fair Warning. They're all a little different, but they're all that raw brown sound, you know, echo on one side type reverby kind of sound, which is great. And then, like Dave said, you know, now Diver Down comes in 1984. They changed again a little bit more chorus in there. And then when you hear 5150, all of a sudden now you're getting this, whoa, I hear some serious chorus in here. You know, OU812 got a little bit more. But I don't think anybody would ever dispute, and you can, Eddie was using the Saldanos now, and then, you know, ultimately built the 5150s and the Music Man guitars, which have those sweet DiMarzio pickups in them, the tone zones and the Air Nortons, nothing like that kind of sound. But I don't think there's any denying when we heard that first power chord of Pound Cake in 1991, we were like, whoa, that's a freaking huge ass sound.
Very wide.
And
Tom is saying the DC 30 rap chorus on Diver Down. Thank you, Tom.
Nice, thank you, Tom. But that was when, for unlawful carnal knowledge, is like Dave said, that's when he really started turning that up, and that's when that detune, stereo detune effect really kind of came in, and he kind of just geeked out on that. I don't want to call it an over-processed sound, but, you know, it was definitely a very big, huge sound. And for Unlawful Carnal Knowledge during the Right Here, Right Now tour, and then I think it really peaked in balance. If you listen to the Toronto '95 live show, that is probably one of the best representations of the Wet Dry Wet balanced sound. I mean, it's just incredible. And then he just abandoned it. He just let it go. When Sammy left and he went with Gary, he went back to playing with cables. He got rid of the cordless. He went back to a much rawer sound. I mean, he was still using the Eventide harmonizers, but it was nothing to the effect of what he was doing from 1991 to 95. Even during the Mitch Malloy rehearsals, you hear him play Panama with Mitch Malloy and what's that other song he did? It's the Right Time, that never materialized. You can even hear that sound there, and he was still using the PV Wolfgangs then too. Mm-hmm. Humans Being was probably the last song where we kind of had that sound. Can't Get the Stuff No More, Me Wise Magic had it a little bit, but Humans Being was probably that last balancey kind of sound, I think.
Hey, Ben Coons, glad to see you.
Hey, Ben.
How are you, Ben?
Kurt says the SLO 100. Yep. Sorry. Kurt says the SLO 100 and the D-Tune paired with the Music Man, hard to beat. I agree. I mean, I loved the new tone when I heard it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still my favorite sound. I mean, and I know we all differ in opinion. That's not Dave's favorite sound per se. It's not everybody's favorite sound, but I'll tell you one thing though. Whenever you go over to Dave's house and he hooks up his Wet Dry Wet, or I go over to Pete Carucio's house or Jimmy Carr, Chris Hubbard pretty much set him up pretty good too. I'll tell you, man, you plug into one of those rigs and then you hit a chord and you start playing, you're like, whoa. I mean, it's just an incredible type of a sound. I mean, people that come down here and what I'll play for sometimes, they're not even guitar players. They're just like, I had a friend come down a couple of weeks ago and he said he wanted to see my guitar setup. And I think I grabbed my Stealth, I think it was, I grabbed my Music Man and I plugged in and I was jamming a little bit. And he's just sitting here with his mouth on the floor like, that freaking sounds like, he said it sounds like 80s arena rock. I mean, that's what he said. He was just like, I can't get over that sound. And it's interesting because the little THR-10X amplifier, that little practice amp that we all know and love, that thing does an incredible job of recreating that type of a sound in a little small package. That's a great little amp.
Mm-hmm.
What about you,
Dave?
Ty? What do you prefer for sound in the Van Halen realm?
I'm probably going to be in the minority when it comes to this, but my favorite guitar tone on my favorite Van Halen album is Fair Warning.
Yep.
Period. But my favorite guitar tone is Van Halen 2.
There's a lot of people that say that. You know who said that same comment was Tone Talk did an interview. Hazansky and Friedman did an interview one time, and I forget who they were interviewing, but Dave Friedman said that was the same thing. He said his favorite Van Halen sound was Van Halen 2.
Yeah, Van Halen 2 is I just think everything on that album sounds better. I don't know what it is.
It's really warm.
I really, really like it. I also appreciated the way his guitar tone constantly evolved, right. And it was something to look forward to in every single record. I loved the For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge tone the first time I heard it, and it was drastically different.
Yeah,
balance was drastically different from that, at least to my ear. And then, the Van Halen 3 record, I love that. I love the tone on A Different Kind of Truth. I looked forward to hearing how he
reinvented
was still, he was always growing, right? He was he was always moving forward.
Yep.
And I appreciated that in him. But if I had to pick a tone, Rob, if I could just have one, if I could dial in Van Halen 2 and sound like that, my Lord, I'd be fine. Yes, Ben, tone chasing for sure. Yeah.
See, that what Ben just said, what you just said too, Ty, but what Ben just fired off there with tone chasing is that's the beauty of Van Halen. That was always the beauty of listening to Eddie. I mean, how many times did he say it? He's tone chasing. So, we all hold on to these favorite sounds that he had, whether it's Diver Down or Balance or VH1 or 2 or Fair One, whatever it is. We all hold on to these favorite types of tones that he had. But I think the most important thing to remember is, we can always have those tones as our favorite, and we can always appreciate that. But to be able to kind of see how they changed over the years and how his tone changed, I think it's amazing to look at a guy like that had so many incredible tones that he was able to pull out of a guitar. It all came from his fingers, as he's always said. But the biggest thing is Eddie was never satisfied. He never. I mean, I remember reading articles where he said he hated the sound in Van Halen 1. He hated that echo off the left side, and he hated that sound. And I was like, huh? I remember hearing that. Like that's incredible. But
Curtis 5150 asked me what my favorite era for his tone was. It's going to be between 82 and 84. The less amount of gain he's ever used was it got less and less and less with each record. Diver Down, there's hardly any. It's very clean playing. It's more the power tube section that he's getting his distortion from, and he brings it up a little bit more in 84. Those two eras were my favorite Van Halen tone.
I was actually just going to ask you, Dave, what you thought had a little bit more gain, 84 or 83, Diver Down or 1984, and I agree with you. I think, Eddie had the volume just cranked on the Diver Down tour. That the power tubes were really kicking in. But if you listen to like Drop Dead Legs, I think you can hear a little bit more grunge than maybe you did on Diver Down. That's a good point.
I liked a lot of the outside playing on 1984. I mean, I think that there was a lot of creativity going on in that record, and I've heard some commentary over the last couple of weeks that perhaps that was the era in which he was most influenced by Alan Holdsworth.
Absolutely.
That would seem to make a lot of sense to me, to my ear. But I had always been attracted to the way in which there's a lot of outside things going on there, a lot of innovation in the way he was playing on top of those chord progressions. And I really love the 84 record.
Oh yeah.
C-Dub says probably less gain because the Marshall was dying. I got to disagree with you there. I know Eddie always said that he thought his Marshall was dying back in that era, and that's why he went with the Soldano and different amplifiers. But I don't believe that at all. Those amplifiers, those old Marshalls, are like brick shithouses, and once you get it worked on, they are just as good. And he says he never had it. It never had any mods. It was just, you never know with Eddie what was real truth back then, because he wanted to keep everyone guessing.
Yeah.
So I believe that amplifier was fine. He really just wanted to go with something else. That's all it was.
What I find interesting was in 1990, you could. It was so apparent to see his tone his tone changing from 84 to 5150. He was getting into a very chorusy type sound now, much more chorusy, and it's obvious why. He's playing with a singer that's much more melodic. They're playing more melodic sounds, songs. I mean, he's got a singer that's got a range on him now that he can hit notes, in different areas. So obviously Eddie's having more fun. So, hey, let's add some chorus to this. Let's spruce this up. I mean, it was just more fun. I mean, you listen to 5150. I mean, they're all happy songs. They're all very, and I'm not downing anything in the Roth era. I mean, I love that stuff. But what I'm saying is the change. You can see how it changed, and all of a sudden Eddie's going, "Oh, I want to get more." He's getting in more into a more process type mindset, and then Lawful comes, then balance comes, and then he kind of gets sick of it, and he's like, I don't want that crappy process sound anymore. I want to go back to the basics. I want to go back to using a cable and, no wireless and, forget the detune thing and, back to that real raw sound again. It's funny. I don't think Eddie ever got what he really was looking for.
My opinion is, first of all, those songs on 5150 and Balance and that whole 5150 and OU812 and all those, Eddie had most of those songs written while Roth was still in the band.
Right.
Most of those songs were written by 82, 83, even earlier.
Yep.
But he knew that Roth couldn't sing them, and that's why he held off on them until he could get a singer that could sing.
Yep. Did you guys, I know Dave heard it, but Ty, did you hear I'm going to give a shout out to Nick Horton for this. Nick Horton sent me a message last night on Messenger. Hey, Rob, did you hear the Steve Rosen interview with him and Eddie in 1986? And I said, no, I didn't even know they had one. I know they had 78, 79, and 80. And he sent it to me, and I just heard that last night and today for the first time. I was like, that was really cool. Hearing him talk about not so much the tone, but talk about how his playing changed from the Roth era to the Sammy era and what he could do. And I thought it was interesting. He's sitting there talking about the Steinberger Trans-Trem, his GL2T. And he couldn't even remember what he didn't even know. He couldn't remember the Trans-Trem.
The name of it, yeah. The biggest takeaway I had from that interview was how in control of everything he actually was at that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, he was really he really felt an awful lot of responsibility for what the band was going to do next.
Right.
And it was clear that, that he was the CEO at that point, that he was not only the creative force of that, but he was also the visionary in terms of where they were going, which is an interesting transition that he was forced to make. Now, look, I'm not a psychologist. I'm just telling you what I took away from that interview. I thought it was a very revealing interview and a very honest interview. I'm
wondering if that was one of the reasons why that interview was held back for so long.
I thought the same thing last night, Dave. Exactly. I was like, wow, because the other interviews with him really didn't kind of get into that. It revolved around a lot of Eddie's playing. This one really hit some stuff like that with emotions. And like you said, Ty, with him taking control, and and he spoke in depth about fair warning. He wanted to quit. I'd had enough, and how dare you quit now? I hung in there, but yeah, it was interesting.
Yeah, I also appreciated too the relationship that he had with Steve Rosen at the time, because I mean there was a lot of respect for journalistic integrity in that interview, where he felt free, to be honest with how he felt, yet wouldn't want it printed, right. and could trust the journalist not to print it. I felt that it was a very trusting, honest conversation. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. To let him run that tape recorder and say those things, knowing it was going on tape, and trust him not to print that. Exactly.
I also appreciated how quick Ed wanted to get off of the Roth subject and talk about what was in front of him.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
When he made the statement, okay, that's all I want to say about.
Yeah, not too many more questions on Roth.
Yeah, not too much more on him, please.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. And that he wanted to move forward. And, that's what pioneers do. Pioneers blaze trails, they move forward. And to my ear, it was just clear that was the path he was on. That was the mindset he was in during that interview. So any of you in the chat there that haven't listened to that interview, I listened to it on YouTube. Do yourself a favor. It's 45 minutes well spent.
Yeah, and you could tell Ed was getting to the point where he was almost feeling like dragged down. He was like, "Oh, I'm getting a bad," he wanted to kind of bring himself back up. Not too much more on him, please. Like, I'm kind of getting in a rut here. I want to kind of bring myself out. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I still, I still just get the jitters though when I hear, when Sam first came in, and I can just see I can just see how that could have went. They have that business meeting, and then all of a sudden Sam finally comes down and, oh, let's just play some stuff, and they do Summer Nights, and Sam just boom, and and like Don Landy hits hit the button. They're like, I think you guys got a new band here. That's incredible. You can just see like how the chemistry just happened, and like it was just like, whoa. You know, I hate to I hate to say it, but it's kind of like a new relationship on the honeymoon phase. You meet someone and it's like boom, whoa, everything just clicks. The physical stuff, the emotional stuff, and you're just like on cloud nine, like wow, this is incredible. That kind of a relationship that Sam and Ed had. You can just see how 5150 just happened. It was, it just put itself together pretty much, and and it just went from there. But it's amazing, I guess the biggest thing for me is to look at the whole scenario of how Van Halen went through the years, from the building up days to Roth, and then, from 78 to 84, like they were just like the most incredible rock band ever. And then Sammy comes in and boom, it goes to a different, I'm not going to say another level, different level. Obviously a number one album, but just takes a different turn. And then there's 10 years of that. And then, Roth comes back. And then there was a little bit of a turn with Sharon came in for that one tour where a lot of people didn't like it. Some people did, whatever. And then, Hagar comes back again, and then Roth back again. It's just amazing how that roller coaster ride of Van Halen has gone through the years. But I guess the biggest thing I would say that I was really happy to hear was it was really nice for me to hear that Sam and Ed had made amends before Ed's passing. I can't tell you how much I smiled when I was driving into work that one day, and I heard Sammy say we'd been talking for the last few months, and it was that love fest all over again, is what he said. That brought a huge smile to my face to know, I guess what I'm saying is when I listen to Van Halen music now, Hagar era music, it makes it more special now to know that at least it ended on a good note. You know what I mean? As weird as that might sound, I was really happy to hear that.
Yeah, I think we all were. Yeah, I agree. I think we all shared I think we shared the same feeling you did when you heard it, Rob. I mean, I'm glad that happened.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the relationship with Roth was. I don't get the sense that it was bad. I think Roth just kind of was doing his own thing, but I think everybody kind of understood Eddie was going through some tough times. So I think the good news is we all know that Gary Sharon and Eddie in the Van Halen camp had always stayed on good terms. Gary said that. We know that, Roth had been on pretty good terms with the camp, at the end, we imagined, and now we know Sammy did. So it's just kind of nice to know that when things finally ended for Ed, on this earth anyways, those three eras were on good terms with him, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
would I love to see a farewell tour with Roth and Hagar? Of course I would. With Mike come back and Wolfie. I mean, of course we all wanted to see that. But I mean, hey, it is what it is, and we're left with this incredible catalog of live music and studio music and guitars and friendships and all this cool stuff. And, hey, like I said, I still say I don't think the Van Halen name is not dead. The family's going through some difficult times right now, and I hope I hope there's some really cool stuff that's going to continue to come out. I mean, I'm amazed at seeing the stuff that's online now of interviews and things, pictures that we'd never seen before. It's pretty cool, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I mean, it has been interesting to see a lot of things, hear a lot of these interviews that we've never heard before. You know, on Mark's show on Tone Talk on Friday, there was a photo that was shared of what is believed Ed Allen, Mike at Sunset Sound recording Van Halen 1. I mean, something we had never seen before.
Yeah.
But exactly what you would expect. 3 guys in a room together playing live. You know, I mean,
And we're gonna see more as the days come out. We're gonna see a lot more stuff that you never would have seen.
yeah.
Thunder Falcon says, I wonder about Mike and Eddie if they made.
Well, they said they did. Mike said Mike was supposed to do a summer tour with them, so I would imagine they did.
Pretty
That
sure
came
they
out.
did. Yeah.
That came out where Mike had to stay quiet, but they were supposed to do a summer tour this year.
Yeah.
With Mike playing bass.
Yep. As far as we know, Mike and Sammy and Wolfie, everybody was on pretty good terms. And like Dave just said, barring Eddie's health kind of going south, there was definitely some stuff coming. That was the plan. But the good news is, like I said, I mean, it just makes me smile inside to know that there was no. It's kind of like, I guess, you have an argument with your wife or your girlfriend or your boyfriend or your husband or whatever, and you get mad and you just go to work. They always say don't go to bed mad or don't go to work mad or whatever. I always try to at least, even if you don't make up, I always at least try to, repair. So it's nice to know that as far as we know, those relationships were repaired, and I guess that's probably the best way to say it.
Yes,
but yeah, I mean, I think it's up to people like us and these collections and Ty,
Yes.
you playing out, and I see a couple Van Halen guitars behind you right there, a couple of Wolfgang, and Dave. It's up to people like us to continue the legacy going, and I mean, yeah, I mean, it is discouraging as it is and was to hear what happened. I still come down here and I'm just like, oh, this is so cool. This is so neat to have that, those memories of seeing them live and hearing the music and playing it. And, yeah, I guess that's how I feel about it.
Yeah.
Well, Rob, your passion and your enthusiasm for all things Van Halen is just contagious, and it's it's exciting to always see you post content on the internet, because it's always things that make us Van Halen fans smile. Whether it's a new guitar or whether it's your cool rig or just your sharing photographs that you have, and
or playing,
or playing the guitar. And I would just like to say, as an observer of your social media channels, thank you, because like I said, every time I see it, it makes me smile.
Well, that makes me smile to hear you say that. So thank you very much. That actually means a lot to hear that. Thank you, Ty.
And Rob, don't forget, I've seen you grow as a guitar player. When I first met you, you were just having fun with it. But as the time has gone, as the time has passed, every time I watch you play, it's like, holy crap, he's getting better and better and better. So,
well, we got to keep up with these damn young kids. I mean, these Chris Hubbards have been playing guitar as long as they've been alive. And, I'm joking, of course, but honestly, to what Dave just said, what makes me want to play? I mean, I don't pick up the guitar I want to play better. I mean, of course, I want to play. Of course, I want to play better. But I mean, I don't. I'm not in a race or anything like that. But I can honestly say what inspires me to play better and to make progress is hanging out with Dave, who's an accomplished musician, watching him play. I've
Thank
learned
you.
so much from Dave. Ty, watching your stuff, like holy crap! I mean, I'd be honored to. I'd be I'd be happy to be able to play half as good as you can. I mean, that's
Uh,
it's
Thank
Me
you.
too.
it's being with people, around
Me
people
too.
like you that make me have that motivation and that passion to continue to play and grow. And I don't care if you're 47 years old or you're 25 years old or you're 68 years old. Doesn't matter how old you are. I think as a musician, I was going to say guitar player, but I'll say as a musician, I think you can always grow. There's always room for growth, no matter how old you are.
Well,
Amen to that.
no matter how good you are either, there's always room for
Exactly.
growth.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and that's, Rob, to the point you made earlier. I mean, that's part of what makes all of this special. It's a community that's been formed around what Ed Van Halen meant to each of us, and I'm like you, I'm thankful for it, and I do agree. I agree that there's always something to learn from another player, from another musician. From someone that's being creative. There's always something to learn.
Mm-hmm.
We all have our own personalities, and we all have our own way of expressing ourselves. Whether we're talking, with our mouths, or whether we're talking through playing an instrument, or how we handle ourselves. We all express ourselves, and I can honestly say every day of my life I learn something from somebody. It's and I think that's the key to having a life that's enjoyable, to having a life that's always looking at like the glass is half full, not half empty. I mean, we live in a difficult world, with viruses and hard times, whether they're financial or medical or family or relation, whatever it is, professional. We're constantly dealing and fielding hardships, and we're constantly waking up every day trying to find enough energy to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps and carry on. But at the same time, I think if we find something each day in our life that brings us joy, whether it's playing an instrument or having a friendship with somebody, I think that's what keeps us going, and that's what continues to help us grow as human beings. I mean, that's kind of how I try to look at life. I didn't always look at it that way, but as I get older, I try to appreciate those relationships a little bit more.
You gotta,
Yeah.
and for at the very least, you gotta appreciate that you're on the upside of the flowers growing. It could very easily be under the
Yeah.
grass. So just cherish every day, smile, do a good thing, be nice to people, as Ben would
Got
say.
Just like Ben would say, hold a door and say thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, that's right.
Tom says, my son's school has a 74-year-old guy that started jiu-jitsu a year ago and loves the sport. That's awesome. That's great. I mean, you're never too old. You're never too young. I think that's phenomenal. It's interesting. I mean, I've been doing martial arts for 35 years now almost. And, I've been teaching for a long time as well and all that. And my sensei, my teacher, who I still see, my original one, he just turned 70. And, he's in, I think, he's in 8th Dan right now. And he just turned 70, and he's in the shape of a 25-year-old, and he looks like he's like probably 50. And, it's not necessarily all about looks or physical. It's about, having a passion for something. That's his passion, and I don't care what, kind of physical things we deal with in our lives. We all can have a passion on something. And if we let that passion guide us, then that's what keeps our minds and our brains young and keeps us, like I said, continuing to grow, not to get all philosophical, but
Yeah.
Well, what do you guys say?
I'd say that this was a real treat. Thanks, Rob.
I'd say that I'm very honored to be on the show, and thank you guys both.
Yeah, thank you for honoring us with your presence.
Yes.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. This was a great way to spend a Wednesday evening, Rob, with you, Dave, of course, with you, and all of you in the chat. It was awesome to hang out with all of you tonight.
Yeah, and stay tuned. We'll be back very shortly.
Thank you guys for doing this
very shortly
tonight. I know Wednesday nights aren't normally normal, but thank you for doing it on a Wednesday. I appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. You know, we're going to be doing some things. We're going to be doing some things. I'm not going to really say anything right now, but just watch for the bell to ring if you've already subscribed. If you haven't subscribed, please do, and click that bell so you can be notified of any time we go on, because at this point, you never know when we're going to go on. Just never know.
Rob, thanks a million. Really appreciate all the sharing you did tonight.
Well, thank you guys again. And just real quick, I just want to thank everybody in the chat. And, my show that I have, my channel, Rob's EVH Guitars, Firearms and Fitness TV, obviously isn't anything as squared away as what you guys have created here. But I do want to say all the people that watch, Nez Says, and all the other shows out there, keep watching, guys. Really do, because all these guys have some incredible people coming on, and just some really cool stuff that's going to continue to build. And thank you all for all the messages you send me, and for watching my show when I do it. I'm going to do some more of my own shows here coming up. I've done a couple already, but I'm going to do a couple more. And just keep tuning in, because we're all learning. I mean, every single day I'm learning something about this stuff that I didn't know, and it's all because of people like you. And thank you for all the support you give all of us. It means a lot to us. And if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing any of this stuff.
Amen.
So, thank you.
That's right.
Absolutely. Well, on that note, Rob, stick with us for a minute after the show. Thank you so much. Ty, awesome job as normal. Great to be working with you. Stick around for a few minutes, and we will see you real soon.
Good night.